right, we're like 4 weeks in now to the football season. NFL, college football, off to a great start all around. It's been a while since we've seen you guys, but we're glad to see you here as of right now. I'm Nate, your host as always, and let's face it, we got a lot to break down. We got NFL talk. We got a lot of college football, more specifically a certain university that we're going to cover today. And of course, today's Thursday. So what does that mean? It's Coach's Corner, baby. And joining us now, as always, the outstanding, amazing, energetic. I love this guy to death. He's been outstanding, a mentor to me as well. Ladies and gentlemen, Coach Wilson. Coach, what's going on? It's been a minute. How you doing?
I'm doing well, man. We haven't been able to shoot the last 2 weeks for just various events and life running its course. However, now we're really in the heat of football season. Everything has unraveled, and we really set the foundation moving forward as far as talking a little bit of college prospects and the college and pro game, the Dallas Cowboys, the Colorado Buffaloes. Now it's time to really hone in on what's going on in the football world and get some real continuity in building this platform out. So I'm excited to be here, man. How you doing today?
I'm doing great, Coach. Great to see you as always. And like you just said, we're getting into the season now. Like this is where the fun really begins. More stuff to talk about, and more specifically, like I said, a certain university that we'll get into as well. So we might as well get into it, right? We talked not too long ago about the University of Colorado. We talked about your preseason thoughts, your expectations for this season. Talked about Deion Sanders. But now, Coach, let's just be frank. Things have kind of went off the rails a little bit, and some stuff has happened that none of us expected. I'm sure a lot of fans didn't expect as well. We saw their first game against North Dakota State, and then we saw last week against Nebraska. Ugh. So, what I want to ask you first, Coach, is for the Buffaloes, what has changed from before the season to now, and we'll kind of work our way towards from there.
Yeah, well, for one, going back in the last year, there's just a lot of hype. They're under a microscope because Coach Prime is running the show over there. They have two of the top players in college football right now, and so everyone is expecting lightning in a bottle all the time. Let's look at what happened week one, right? The offensive line showed improvement. There's only one QB pressure in the first half, and Shedeur was able to get the ball off. Travis Hunter was magnificent. Jimmy Horn Jr. was phenomenal as well. However, North Dakota State is a well-coached team. They are not a bad program by any means. That was a close game, but again, it was nationally televised. Everyone was watching, and so because Shedeur and Travis were so impressive, it's like, all right, Colorado's here. They fixed the O-line. Let's get this rolling. Well, slow down now. Matt Rule is a pro coach. Dylan Raiola was a highly touted prospect. And it's very contrary to what they're doing over at Colorado off the fact that they've been building off of high school prospects. They control the game at the line of scrimmage. They play a very sophisticated brand of football. And that is really the recipe to build a program. And so when I look at Nebraska, they're doing everything right. They are by no means chumps. Okay, you have a pro coach. He knows exactly what he's doing. And so I don't think that the Colorado world should panic. I just think they played a better team that is just very well coached. However, what this put some spotlight on is that Colorado's O-line isn't that improved. They have 5 new starters, okay? The D-line has a ton of new players, and there's just no continuity within that program. And there are programs that are committed to controlling the line of scrimmage that are going to send the blitzes. And so, Colorado has a ton of speed on the perimeter, but when they find themselves in 3rd and 8 situations when they can send 6 and play cover 0, that's a tough spot to be in. And we saw a lot of that. Doesn't help them as well that Colorado is not good in critical situations. They're not particularly disciplined. They're just not buttoned up at all, to be honest with you. It seems like it was just like a quick patched up team. We got some skill guys. We got a good quarterback. Let's go. And that's just not how it works. I love Coach Prime, but there is not a blueprint in place to really have sustained success. They're going to have some highlights, but I don't really see a tight end or really using any big personnel, not a particularly good run game. They're very predictable offensively. Shedeur Sanders still holds on to the ball too long. The O-line doesn't look particularly improved. I did think that this DB who filled in for Shiloh Sanders. Do I have his name here? I have his name here in my notes somewhere along the lines. Number 7, though, he was a good player. He was also with Coach Prime at Jackson State, but he looked pretty good. I think
Mhm.
Colorado, really looking at the Big 12 realistically now, I think they're a 5 to 6 win team. But I'm not actually surprised. They are just getting a lot of publicity, which that's what they do to themselves. But all things considered, football purists know that if you're not good in between the trenches and you're really predictable offensively, coming out in 4 wide receivers 90% of the time ain't going to get it done. And
Mhm.
so that's how I see them now. But I am going to say that Nebraska is a good football program. And so people can't undermine that in talking about Colorado's struggles. And really only 2 weeks into this thing.
And continuity is, the key word, coach. And the player you mentioned was Cameron Silman Craig, the corner who took over for
Yeah.
Shiloh. Uh, Prayers to Shiloh, by the way. Hope he gets, has a speedy recovery. I know his that forearm injury is a bit, of a concern and a big loss to that Colorado secondary. So shout out to Silman Craig. But the reason why I wanted to mention that name is he's a transfer. And just like a lot of the Colorado team is, a lot of transfers, coach. Like you mentioned, they put a bunch of guys together and said, okay, let's go out there and try to compete. Did it work out in the first game? Yes. Did it work out against Nebraska? No. Why? Continuity. This Nebraska team, they didn't bring in as much transfers like Colorado did yet, because they brought in, they had the same guys from last year. Sure, they lost a few guys, but they had the same guys from last year, and they have that foundation. Matt Rule, like you mentioned, is an outstanding head coach at the college level, not the professional level, of course, but from the college level, he's great. Um, and the offensive line, yes, they had that one Jordan Seaton left tackle who is, he's a young freshman. He's great. Everyone else, though, kind of a question mark. I thought they fixed it based off week one. Then after week two, I was like, okay, then we're back to square one. But
Let's take
here,
a look at what really happened, though. I just want to say this, okay? The game was 28-10, right?
yeah,
In the first half, it was a blowout
yeah.
essentially.
Mhm.
Okay. In the second half, Nebraska didn't score any more points. Also, Colorado went for it on a 4th and short early in the game that sucked the life out of them. They missed a field goal in the red zone, and then they had a fluky interception. Not a fluky interception, but there was just the pressure, just a bad throw, pick six. They had all the momentum sucked out of them early. Okay, so I did like the fact that in the second half they didn't allow any more points. They were able to get on the board. They settled in. But all things considered, they had a ton of pass interference calls, and they were just really sloppy. But Nebraska showed their flaws as well. They had a ton of holding calls. The score actually could have been worse. But when I analyze that game as a whole, it's just like we have two really just unexperienced teams trying to figure this out, and the more physical team that made less mistakes won. Dylan, and this is what I just wanted to highlight in all of this. Because it's not necessarily that Colorado did a whole lot bad. It's just that Nebraska didn't make mistakes. And it really comes down to Dylan Raiola, who was essentially untouched, didn't really get hit a lot. He's incredibly poised. His dad is a former NFL lineman. The kid understands what it means to be a pro, and he seems like a carbon copy of Patrick Mahomes, and he only had 30 passing attempts. Okay, Nebraska did a really good job putting him under center, running play action, committing to the run game, and they were just in control. So it wasn't necessarily impressive by Nebraska. It's just a winning brand of football. And, winning always isn't always exciting, but that's what I'm seeing throughout all of college football is teams that are using big personnel, tight ends, and H-backs that are going under center a little bit with a little bit of that play action game. That is how you play offense. And that's what
Hmm.
I'm seeing. And Colorado can't do that. And Nebraska has a nice young quarterback that they're developing properly and big boys up front. And they have a nice thing moving forward. So what we saw is a tale of two programs that are trying to rebuild and going apparently in separate directions in their approach to doing so.
But here's the thing, coach. Is it kind of clear to you that the game plan to stopping Colorado is just the passing game? Because once again, just like in the first game, right, the running game did not do anything against Nebraska. 16 yards rushing total. You can take out the sack yards from Shadir Sanders altogether. It's still bad. I mean, the leading rusher was Dalen Hayden, 5 carries for 32 yards. It's pretty simple. You stop the passing game, you're going to beat Colorado. Is that correct or am I wrong?
I would say so, 100%. And they don't have another element of the game that
Mhm.
appears as if they can bail out that offense. Nothing crazy on special teams. Field goal kickers missing easy kicks. Shiloh Sanders is the heart and soul of that defense. Clearly,
Yeah.
he's now out. They're saying 2 to 3 weeks. They're not dominating the line of scrimmage. Linebackers are Silman Craig is a bright spot, but still, just not. They don't have the horses, and it just is what it is.
And what bothers me a little bit, coach, and you can correct me or criticize me for this as well. I didn't like Shadir Sanders' comments post game. I know it wasn't directly at this position group, but in terms of when he was asked about the offensive line, he kind of, when he was asked about the loss, he kind of blamed it on the offensive line, not directly, but the signs were clear that he was kind of blaming the old line for the play, and I understand, but at the same time, Shadir had a QBR of 24.4, and what that means is he was pretty bad against Nebraska. No matter, you can get sacked as many times as you want, but at the same time, it's like you got to put blame on yourself. You got to put, responsibility on yourself. You got to, take action, say, hey, yes, it was partly my fault. You can't just put the blame on something else because Shadir has what, 10, 11 more games with this offensive line and the team itself. Like, just his comments were a bit, I don't know. I didn't like him personally. I'm sure you heard the press conference.
Oh, oh
Are you
yeah, oh
concerned
yeah.
about his leadership, coach, by any chance, or no?
I think he's a dog. I don't think that he has lost a lot in his life. And I think he doesn't really deal with it well. What that was also revealing to me was that I don't think he respects his teammates very much. His dad's a coach. He knows he's going to be a top 10 pick. I just don't think he really cares. I think he just said exactly how he felt at that period of time. And he's probably a little irritated with all the comparisons to Raiola and the fact that they watch every single thing he does. If I was a pro team, would I be concerned? No, not really. I know what I'm going to get from him. And I think that if he was in an NFL locker room with better players, he'll be fine. And I know he's really tough. He's not a guy that's going to be afraid of NFL O linemen. However, what I would just like to see from the young man, because I most certainly know that he knows better, is to just shut up and own it. I know that he's arrogant and I know the dynamic. I get that. I understand him. But, like, with all things considered, he just knows better. I got to be better. This is a long season. Just say the right things. Don't try to give an excuse. And he's going to be ridiculed. So he just has to have more awareness. So, yeah, it's alarming. It's a little bit of a red flag, not an indicator or a deciding factor on impacting his draft stock. I think he has all the intangibles. I think it's really just the lack of supporting cast because his dad is trying to rush a process that takes time. But all things considered, yeah, he just has to be better, and we'll see how he deals with the fact that they're probably going to lose a lot more games. So
Exactly.
we'll just see how it goes.
And it's simple. Like, it's like, what if his dad wasn't the coach? What if Deion Sanders was never the coach of Colorado, but Shadir was still at Colorado anyways? Maybe things would change, but because his dad's the coach, we'll never know how things would be without him. Because his dad's been part of his football career pretty much his whole life, and that's obviously going to change once he gets to the NFL. And we'll see. But again, just you have what, 10 plus games left with this offensive line with the team as a whole. So I do hope that he kind of takes control, kind of is not just a dog, but also a leader in the locker room, taking blame when necessary, and not putting on his teammates and kind of putting them down. Because based off what we heard, Colorado State's coming up. Are they going to feel motivated to protect him? That's their job, to protect him, but their motivation to do so, that's a question mark. Something that shouldn't be questioned, though, as we shift from college. We'll get to college, come back to college in just a bit, but we got to talk about it, Coach. Them boys, them Dallas mother fluffing Cowboys. You know, okay, here's the thing. Here is the thing. I get it. They beat the Browns. They didn't just beat the Browns, Coach. They embarrassed the Browns. Offensively, defensive, special teams. Are you kidding me? Cavante Turpin is I like that guy. Turpin's a speedster.
The first kick return for a touchdown with this new kickoff rule happened in week 1. Pretty
I
cool to
know.
see, right?
I love it. I think it was a punt return, if I'm not mistaken, that Turpin scored on, I believe. I think
Was the fun?
it was a punt return. I think you're referring to. Oh my God, it was the Arizona guy that did the kick return.
Oh, we already had a kick return, yeah.
Yeah, you're
The
right.
Cowboys did have a special teams touchdown, though.
Yeah, it was
That
punt.
definitely impacted the scope of the game.
100%. I That took the life out of the Browns stadium and the fans as a whole. By the way, Tom Brady's first game commentating, that was great to hear as well. Just wanted to point that
So,
out.
so into that game, right? Couple
Yeah.
things leading up into it.
Yeah.
The Cowboys re-signed CD. They re-signed Zach. They got it done. And I
Yep.
saw Jerry Jones' interview with Stephen A. Smith,
That's
which
such
was a
good.
really raw interview. I loved how Jerry Jones carried himself, and he really
Yeah.
put on display his business acumen and his understanding of what it takes to build a team. One thing that stood out to me was that he was like, I only get deals done when it's like, okay, it may impact if they're going to miss some time. It's like, Jerry, like, you don't want to cut into practice time and chemistry. And I see a lot of NFL owners do that. It's like a receiver will hold out for a while, then it's like a couple days before the first game, they sign him. Like, God, like, owners have like no urgency or understanding of how this impacts chemistry.
But that's the
However, are we
thing.
going to say?
But that's the thing, coach. Not only he didn't wait days, he waited hours. Hours before the game, coach.
Hey,
And it's like, what? Why?
he got the job done, and he takes care of his people. And he brought up some interesting points in talking about Dak Prescott's development and gambling on the future in regards to how he spends the money. And I think that it's absolutely a safe bet that Dak Prescott continues to get better every single year. He has gotten better. And so if you're taking care of all the guys in the building, and the way he looks at his team is in like 5-year increments, they have allocated their money very well in a way that's allowed them to stay relevant without having to like go through like a long rebuild. They had a couple bad years, but they've done a really good job of managing the cap, and they spend money when they have to. And so for all that we talked about leading up to the season, they silenced all that. And so regardless of the outcome this year, they know that they can move forward. If they got to let go of McCarthy, so be it. But diving into this game, I love the fact that they threw the ball 32 times, ran the ball 25. They were committed to the run. Zeke looked incredibly explosive. We're going to see more of Rico Dowdle. Dowdle, I can't pronounce his last name. That's kind of a tricky one. We're going
Close
to see
enough.
more Rico. Yep. We're going to see them sprinkling in Dalvin Cook into the run game. But with Ferguson, the tight end, Brandon Cooks looked explosive. CeeDee Lamb on those jet sweeps. He's definitely a top 5 receiver now. They look solid, man. And then on the defensive side, I mean, just looking at DeMarcus Lawrence, Trayvon Diggs, Mika Parsons, Malik Hooker, who I still believe hasn't hit his prime, was an elite safety at Ohio State, had some injuries. They have more than enough as far as talent with the personnel. But the Browns threw the ball way too much. The lack of Nick Chubb definitely hurt them. And Deshaun Watson doesn't appear to be making good decisions. He's not particularly accurate. And it was really alarming when his offensive lineman, that little encounter with trying to help him up, that was not a good look. And so they have the receivers on the outside, and they have a really good defense. I mean, they went, pretty far with Joe Flacco last year.
Yeah.
So that shows you that the pieces are there. Stefanski's been a good coach, but as far as that team trending in the right direction, regardless of the Cowboys' hype going into the season, those are pretty even matched teams. The Cowboys put a whooping on them, and if I'm a Browns fan, I'm definitely alarmed in regards to how much capital they gave to get Deshaun Watson, and the excuses are up now. Deshaun Watson's got to put up, because if he doesn't, jobs are
Mm-hmm.
going to start getting lost at the end of this season. And they got other quarterbacks in the building.
Damn
And
right they
so I'm
do.
just interested to see what happened. Very impressive outing by the Cowboys, and I'm really excited to see them play the Saints, who are another explosive team who did some really good things in week 1. But the Browns, man, they better get it together quickly. That's a
Six
tough division.
sacks. 6 sacks allowed by
Yeah.
Cleveland, coach. Dallas' defense was unbelievable. They played
Yeah.
extremely well.
Interception by Trayvon Diggs, too, which is good to see him coming back from an ACL.
Are we even surprised, coach? Javon
Uh-huh.
Diggs, he's just that guy. He just continues to be that guy at the corner position. And Eric Kendricks had an interception as well. So great free agent signing so far by Dallas. Kendricks came from Minnesota, I believe, I'm not mistaken. But
Yeah.
overall, Dallas, great team, great win. And yeah, we'll see what happens against the Saints. I do want to ask one question about Cleveland. When are we gonna pull the trigger on just not playing Watson? Because at this point, if there's no, because he got his money, coach, and I understand that when sometimes when players get their money, they don't play as well afterwards. Prescott played well, so he's an exception for now. But Watson, he got his money like what 2 years ago, and he hasn't played to the level that he was, traded and signed to be. So you just mentioned the teammate situation. When is it gonna be time to just bench him and kind of teach him a lesson that even though he's healthy, he doesn't deserve to be on the field because his teammates don't respect him, the fans don't like him anymore. When's it time to just call it quits and move on?
So everyone wants to press the panic button so quickly. Dude,
Mm-hmm.
there's 17 games. It's a long season. Even just the tone of your voice, like
Yeah.
even as we were talking about Colorado, and that is public perception. But
Yes,
it's
of
like,
course.
relax, relax.
I love it.
Seriously, man, because it's going to be a long season. But what I want to see across the football world as a whole is that you can't be putting the entire game on the quarterback. And that's what I'm seeing from Deshaun Watson. And I see that they paid him a lot of money, but you got to commit to the run game. You have to. And I'm seeing this across all levels of football. Teams coming out in 11 personnel or 10 personnel, living in the shotgun. And it literally just turns into a shootout. Or if you end up in a 3rd and 8 situation, you find yourself in like 2nd and longs because you're not getting creative with your play calling, you're putting your quarterback in bad positions. And it doesn't matter who you are. I mean, Aaron Rodgers still is worldly and can get creative in the pocket and he makes quick decisions. But when he gets pressured, he struggles. And we saw some of that Monday night, and he's one of the best in the world. And so I say that to say the number one thing to aid a quarterback is a run game. And we need to see teams playing under center more. Now, I know the Browns don't have their star running back, but before we start talking about making quarterback shifts, we have to allow the season to develop. We need to see 4 or 5 games so teams can develop tendencies, begin unlocking different elements of their offense, and then see how balanced they are. I mentioned with the Cowboys, like Dak Prescott can go out there and sling it 50 times. He only threw it 32 times. They were committed to the run game. They weren't super successful. I thought Zeke looked explosive in the carries that he got. But the fact of the matter is that they're like, okay, we're going to get this thing rolling because even if you just establish it, it opens up the play action. It keeps the defense on their heels. And so it's about creating chunk plays. And so the Browns have the pieces to run the ball and they have a good defense. And they can play more of a low scoring style of play. That's totally fine, but they're going to need to establish an identity. I think that they look at the speed on the perimeter with Amari Cooper and Jerry Jeudy. They got these nice shiny toys, so they feel inclined to sling it. Just relax. And I know Stefanski is a run first coach anyway. So I'm not quick to press the button over there. However, that's a really tough division. and
No, yeah.
so and so the pressure can begin to, rise really quickly about midway through October. So these games do matter. I will say that. But let's review this in about 6 weeks.
Okay. That's fair. And Nick Chubb may be back within the 6-3 range for the Browns. So that's going to be hopefully good to see because he is, let's face it, that kind of the backbone of that Cleveland offense. You just mentioned running the football. Jerome Ford is a more than capable backup. I have him in my fantasy team, by the way. I'm just saying. But he is not Nick Chubb caliber type back that Cleveland needs for this offense. So yes, I am one of those people that I am pressing the panic button a little bit. It's just only because though we've seen Watson before. He is a top 10. He's played like a top 10 quarterback before.
That
We
was
saw
four
it in.
years ago, Nate.
I know, and I'm
He
still
hasn't
holding
done
on
it in
to
a
that.
long time.
I'm still holding on to that, coach. That's the thing. I'm still holding on to that hope that he can bounce back. I'm not rooting against him. I know what he's done off the field. That's something that's like not excusable. But when he's on the field, I just want him to succeed, and I hope he can get to that. It's just so far we haven't seen that, and hopefully he proves us wrong and go from there. So for Cleveland, yeah, we'll see what happens there. But for Dallas, more importantly, they got Week 1 over with. They got the Saints coming up as well. You mentioned how the Saints they kind of beat the brakes off the Panthers. And so we'll dive into that real quick before we go back to the college game and talk about the games of the week and whatnot, coach. So Dallas and the Saints. Look, the Saints beat the Panthers. You're supposed to beat the Panthers. Now, do I expect every team to beat the brakes off the Panthers like the Saints did? No. But the Saints looked pretty impressive. Derek Carr looked like the Derek Carr of old. That's not going to happen against Dallas. The Cowboys and Panthers are. You have the Cowboys, 50 feet of crap, and then you got the Panthers. So, do you expect Dallas to win this game? Are there challenges for the Cowboys that they'll have to, you know, focus on like when facing New Orleans, and just your overall thoughts for this game, Coach, on Sunday.
These teams haven't met in 3 years. They're not that familiar with each other. They got Dallas minus 6.5 in Vegas,
Ooh.
which is fair at this stage of the season. The Cowboys do have better personnel. The Saints have a very winnable division. They could easily come out on top, although the Bucks showed some bright spots in week one. Baker's really coming into his own.
Mm-hmm.
But Derek Carr's been at it for a while now, man. Very similar to like Dak Prescott. He's played a lot of football. He could be in his prime now. And I think that he's really comfortable in New Orleans. I think they got a good culture. They got a
Yeah.
lot of good locker room guys. They're committed to running the ball. They ran the ball really well, which I love to see, over 200 yards on the ground. I'm really starting to talk about this a bit, but they had 2 interceptions and 4 picks. Now, I do think the Panthers are the worst team in the NFL. I might put money on the fact that they may not win a game. They are bad. But no, all things considered, Derek Carr, 3 touchdowns, no picks last week, and that's a big win for them. And I see this as a toss-up game where Dallas has, a pretty difficult schedule, and I can see New Orleans sneaking up on them. New Orleans is just a team that can just catch you sleeping, but they are pretty even-matched teams,
Yeah.
and New Orleans can definitely get after the passer and make life tough. They're just always gritty, strong secondary, and they can score points. Chris Olave is beginning to emerge as a number 1 receiver. Alvin Kamara is still deadly. And so, yeah, for all that we talked about with the Cowboys, I think the Saints have a lot of firepower as well. I think it's probably going to be one of the more entertaining games of the week, but I would take the Dallas on the spread here for sure. But
100%.
again, it's definitely a game where like it could go either way, and it's not going to be a real indicator of who these teams are because we're so early into the season. I think undoubtedly, though, Dallas is a playoff team, where I see the Saints tinkering anywhere between a 6-7 win team or an 8-9 win team.
Yeah, I mean, the Cowboys are at home. This is their home opener. Their defense looked great against the Browns, and let's face it, the Cowboys' offense, when they want to get it going, they will get it going. And on it, as much as I hate to say it, because I thought he was washed, Zeke, I don't know what he did.
Lost some weight. He lost some weight. He looked explosive, man. He looked explosive. He's motivated. And so those things will happen to a guy in the midst of his career. He's in Dallas. He's getting paid well. His weight got sloppy. Dallas moved off of him. And then he had to go to New England and prove, do I still got it? And he actually had an underrated, really good year in New England. But what that did for a guy like him is that it taught him how to be a pro. He didn't really have the spotlight on him. He had to go to New England, play in a system, do the little things, learn a new playbook. And so it got him revigorated. And so Dallas is home for him. It's a perfect reunion. And so the fact that he dropped his weight a little bit, he knows the system. They're ready to win now. I think it's the perfect marriage. It's like going back to your ex-girlfriend. But, she knows everything you like. So I'm happy to see that. And I think that they got a good thing moving forward. And I think Zeke Elliott still has some stuff left in the tank. So I think that the Cowboys are going to go as far as their run game takes them. And that's what the theme of Coach's Corner is going to be about. You got to run the ball and control clock and not commit turnovers. And you're going to have a chance to win. And so that's really just the main point for a lot of these really strong teams that are committed to doing that.
I love it. Yeah, Coach's Corner, baby. Home of the run game. That's what we like to see. I love it. I love it. I love it.
No doubt.
As I do want to kind of shift away from the NFL a little bit. Let's go back to college because that's your expertise. That's mine as well. Or not mine. I'm getting there. I'm learning college through you, Coach. I just want to let you know my college knowledge is going to be on you. So by the end of the college season, I hope to learn a lot more about it than I do right now. So, games of the week. We got 2 of them, if not mistaken. One of them is obviously Colorado and Colorado State. The other one's going to be Bama and Wisconsin. You know what? Let's start with Colorado. Let's go back to Colorado real quick, then we'll go to Bama because I kind of want to say Bama for last. I'm a big fan of Bama. Not a fan because go Bears. But I love Nick Saban. I love his coaching philosophy and all that stuff. I know he's not there now, but Jalen Milroe is one interesting quarterback prospect to have. But anyways, Colorado State. Last year, game of the year. I love that game. I'm sure you did too. This week, I don't know. I mean, we talked about Colorado's run game. Just if as long as you can handle the pass, or as long as the Rams of Colorado State can handle the passing game, they should come out just fine. But they couldn't stop Shadir last year. So what? Oh, I do want to point out real quick. I do have some dislike for the Rams. I was not happy when their quarterback followed Nicolosi and their receiver Toria Horton turned down 600K because quote they wanted to win a championship at Colorado State. Coach, I'm gonna calm down. I'm gonna calm down real quick. I don't lose my composure.
Come back down to center, man. Come back down to center. Rail it in. Do you need to take a quick timeout?
Coach, I am a college student majoring in media, also working a customer service job. If I was going to be given 600K to never touch media or school or whatever again, I would take the 600K. You know why? Because in this economy, everything's expensive. So I would take 600K. These two dudes declined 600K because they wanted to stay and win a championship at Colorado State because they felt winning here was more important. Coach, they're not going to win anything here.
Nate. Believe none of what you see and some of what you hear. Okay? For every action, there's an opposing action. Understand that Colorado, the Buffaloes, are a media juggernaut. And so what Colorado State needs to take on the identity as is the antithesis, in which Colorado has sold their soul to the brand deals in order to get all the spotlight there, to get Shador and Travis Hunter high draft spots and get them potentially a big bowl game. And so Deion get the brand deals and they can get that show going. That's what it's about. That's just the modern college football landscape. And so you're Colorado State, okay? You are the in-state rival. Their coach is very blue collar. What's his name? Is it Jay Norvell?
Yes, that is correct.
Yes,
yeah,
okay. Yep. He's cut his teeth. He's been a position coach for a while. He's been all throughout college football, Oklahoma, Nevada, the Gators. He's been around me. He's coached a lot of good players. He's finally got his own program. And I think he has him trending in the right direction, wearing the blue collar Dickie shirt, and you're trying to adopt this blue collar philosophy. And all the hype last year, it really jacked up the locker room, and Colorado State played them really tough. And there's this element of being an in-state rival that makes the game better. However, I don't even know if those players got offered that deal, or perhaps there's another brand in the state of Colorado that's paying them under the table and told them to publicize what they were offered, and that they'll double up the offer if they just reject them to draw more spotlight in the fact that we're going to do it the right way, contrary to what they're doing over in Boulder. That's what's going on beneath the scenes, man. But you don't think these kids are not getting paid? Like, come on. What do you think? These kids are just pure and they want to go to college. Like, we're in 2024, man. You see what they got going on at the Olympics? You see what's going on at college campuses? Go downtown right now. You go see the things young people are doing. Now, don't tell me these kids don't want the money. I'm not buying that one bit.
So that's what I'm saying. Innocent and stuff. It's
but it's all for publicity, you know what I mean? But playing the other side of the spectrum, that's neither here nor there. The fact of the matter is that 2 games into the season, they're averaging 34 and a half points per game, averaging 273 yards of total offense, and an average of 6 touchdowns. They are struggling. Colorado State is struggling. I don't think they have the same momentum as last year. And Colorado, the Buffs, are way more talented than these Rams. And so what I expect is that Colorado is going to cover the 7.5 spread and beat the brakes out of the Rams. I think that it's publicized because they're rivals and how close the game was last year. But the Nebraska game last year, Colorado beat them because they had more initial talent up front in the beginning stages of these 2 rebuilds. But I think that this Colorado State team, they're coming back down to real life. They're in a very mediocre conference, and they do not have the horses. And they also don't have the game planning and the philosophy that the North Dakota States have. And they're not going to be able to control the line of scrimmage. So once Colorado gets up 1 or 2 scores, which I expect to happen really early. This is a team that doesn't have the speed to run with the Travis Hunter or a Horn, okay? And I expect LaJohntay Wester to start rolling as well. and Will Shepherd. And so those are electric receivers. And so this is like where like the talent gap begins to show. Is just like they just got speed. Colorado State's not built like that. And so I think Colorado has improved from last year. I don't think Colorado State has particularly improved. And so all things considered, I think Colorado, this is going to be a statement game for them.
You know who I miss a lot on Colorado? Michael Harrison, that tight end that played extremely well last year for the Buffaloes in that
He had
game.
3 touchdowns in this game.
I know. I miss him. He's on San Diego State now. Don't know why he transferred out, but I do miss him. I wish he was on this team. I feel like he would have been another solid weapon for Shadur, but that's neither here nor there. Yeah, I'm picking the Colorado Buffaloes too. Not because of my dislike for those two students who want to act all innocent about, I don't want to get paid, I want to win games, and that's it. Whatever. Look, the Rams, let's face it, they got blown up by Texas, which is understandable, but they only beat Northern Colorado last week by like 15 points.
I believe Ed McCaffrey's the head coach at Northern Colorado.
Really?
Yeah. And his son, Luke McCaffrey, is like the OC.
Luke McCaffrey. Oh, the receiver. He's on the Commanders now, coach.
No, not Luke. The other one. Might be Dylan. He went to Michigan, I believe. He was a quarterback. He was a 5-star prospect.
Gotcha.
Yeah, he's a coach now.
Oh.
Yeah, and Ed McCaffrey's the head coach over there.
What?
So I don't know. That's neither here nor there, but yeah.
Yeah.
I believe he's still there.
I got the Buffaloes. Yeah, just like you, coach. I got the Buffaloes. Hopefully, they can kind of make. I don't think is it going to be a national TV? If I'm not mistaken.
Oh yeah, it is. It is. It's on prime time.
Yeah. Well, I don't expect anything
less.
Ed
McCaffrey was fired a long time ago. I just looked it up. Shame on me. I've been out of the football world. That's a small story. I don't know what they got going on at Northern Colorado, but they aren't trending in the right direction. So the fact that Colorado State wasn't able to particularly dominate them, again, pretty alarming. Still early in the season, but I just don't think Colorado State's anything special.
All righty. All right. Well, we're going to shift from that one to the other game of the week, Alabama versus Wisconsin. Tell us about this one, Coach. I don't know much about it. I'm gonna be honest with you right now. Tell us about this matchup. What should we focus on? What players to watch? I know Germinaro is one of them, of course, but why is this game something that stood out to you for this upcoming weekend?
For sure. Well, first things first. Wisconsin, now coached under Luke Fickell, who's been a phenomenal coach all throughout his career. One thing I noticed about watching Wisconsin is that they are not going under center as much anymore. They are coming out in the spread a lot more. I've seen a little bit of some tight end stuff, but they got a lot of receivers on the field, and I don't like that, especially with the Big Ten getting a lot more speed with Washington, Oregon, USC, UCLA all coming in. So I don't know. I feel like they're zigging like everyone else as opposed to doubling down on zagging and trying to control the line of scrimmage in a similar fashion like what Nebraska's doing with their rebuild. But they have a fifth-year quarterback in Tyler Van Dyke who comes from University of Miami. He's played a lot of football, and he is a pretty athletic passer. They have a pretty solid running back as well. And so Wisconsin, they haven't been particularly impressive in their 2 wins this season. Last week playing South Dakota, who's generally a pretty good team, but they played them tough, and then Wisconsin got ahead at the end. But they're just way bigger than them. But what I find interesting about this game is that Alabama and Wisconsin are both teams committed to running the ball. Still programs that are fairly rebuilt, and they're always pretty competitive. Alabama defensively looks fairly similar. They're doing a lot of the same 4-2-5, 3-4 kind of hybrid stuff that they're doing with Saban. They have DBs and skill guys. They're huge up front. The issue last week that I've seen with USF is that they just look undisciplined. 3 fumbles. Jalen Milroe also fumbled an under center snap in the red zone. And I saw Nick Saban, who was actually in the crowd, wanting to pull out his hair. Alabama is still committed to the run game, and they are going to fix these small things. They have a great coaching staff, so they're not going to take that much of a step back. But the fact of the matter is they don't have a quarterback that can really win games from the pocket. So if you keep the game close, it's a recipe to be in control. But you're going to just see a good brand of football of just 2 hard-nosed teams. And what I find fascinating about Jalen Milroe is that this goes back to like the Jalen Hurts days where Alabama had a true power run game threat from the quarterback position. And
Yeah.
so what that does is it gives you an additional blocker. And so he can really get dangerous in the run game, running gap scheme stuff. And you can come out empty and then run him using the H-back with some split zone stuff and some counter stuff. You can do a lot of cool stuff with the run game with a quarterback like him. And he has lost a little bit of weight. He's a lot leaner. He is tough to bring down. And so when the pocket collapses, he is a threat. And so if Alabama can just commit to the run and put him in good situations, I think that Alabama has a really talented roster. And he's just so athletic that if he just doesn't beat himself, obviously they had a fumble on a kick return last week. They had a fumble at like the 50-yard line by a running back. And then they had the Milrow fumble in the red zone. But you clean up some of those things. And I expect them to probably dominate Wisconsin. But Wisconsin is a team historically that has controlled the line of scrimmage, and they have a lot of experience at the quarterback position. And so there's not a lot of great games this week, but we have a team like Wisconsin that likes catching up to, these Pac-12, the old Pac-12 and these SEC teams and always playing them tough. So I just think for football purists, you're going to get just a game of, running the ball and a lot of defense.
Love it.
And I think that's solid. And so, yeah, I have Alabama absolutely winning that game by probably 2 scores, but I think it's going to be interesting and close until the end.
Perfect. Yeah, Alabama as well. Love me some Milrow play. Obviously, I think he needs to, do a little better throwing the football. Only under 200 yards again against USF last week.
He's not very accurate. Not very accurate at all. Even his ball placement when he has wide open receivers, it's not particularly good. It's like he'll make a guy slow down and lose stride where it's turning potential touchdown into just a big play. But I will say, much respect to the USF program. Their head coach, Alex Golish, is a Russian native. Okay. I don't know if there's any other immigrant NCAA Division I football coaches. And this guy's fiery. They were really impressive. It was 12-14 going into the fourth quarter, and then Alabama pulled away. It was really the turnovers that kept it close, but I will say USF appears to be trending in the right direction. So that was good to see.
Definitely. So exciting weekend of football, college football coming up, starting tomorrow, I believe, on Friday, and then Saturday. And we have NFL football on Sunday as well, and then Monday night as well. Let's see. But before we go, Coach, is there anything else that we missed? Because I know we got Colorado. We talked about the Dallas Cowboys. Talked about the games of the week. I don't think I missed anything else.
I just wanted to cover this, man. No, we covered everything. And I just want to say this again. Watching Colorado after week 1, I texted a lot of my football friends, coaches, former teammates, and I was like, can a team win a national championship or a Super Bowl in 10 personnel, living and dying in 10 personnel, 4 receivers on the field? And I'm not saying that you got to come out in a spread offense, 2x2, 3x1. You can do some under center. You can do some bunch stuff. But I'm saying that they're in that base personnel 90% of the time. My peers said yes. The majority of them said yes. I don't believe you can. And I'm seeing that personnel grouping more and more. And I think that with football transforming into a passing game and 7-on-7 and the spread offense being really easy reads, we're getting away from development. And Tom Brady talks about this a lot in just different podcasts and different press conferences and things that he's had. And it really upsets me because the quarterback position is very detail oriented. It takes time. You can't just rush a guy in there and throw him into a system. Now, like a Dylan Raiola, who's protected in a pro style system, yes, and he can develop. And so all things considered, he's a guy that's going to be a really good prospect. But we're not seeing this same development amongst guys going under center. When you see Justin Fields, he fumbled a snap last week again, but he fumbled his first 2 snaps in the preseason game as well when he's going under center. And so you need that component because you turn your back to the defense and it really opens up the play action game. And so when you see condensed sets, I love what Mike McDaniel, Sean McVay, Matt LaFleur, those guys are really committed at the pro level into turning a running play into all 11 guys being engaged to where receivers are blocking and their tight ends are really active and involved. And so I just think that if football coaches really want to control games, it's just getting more creative on first down, using a lot of formations and committing to the run game, man. You can't get away from that. And lastly, Jim Harbaugh with Michigan and what he built, and we're seeing this now with the Chargers. They use a fullback. They're coming out in 21 personnel. And it's like football can evolve, but you can't get away from the basics. And so that's the key point that I want to make throughout the season. And we're going to see time after time is that the more things change, the more they actually stay the same. And so there are elements of the game that you cannot neglect, and it's the team that turns the ball over less, that controls the line of scrimmage, and that's able to just outlast their opponent is going to win games. And we will see that over and over and over again. And if I'm wrong and some dynamic spread pass first team wins the Super Bowl, then okay, evolution. And I think that's good too. But I do believe in the fundamentals, and you got to run the ball in order to win the game.
This is Coach's Corner, where we believe in the run game and we do not believe in 10 personnel winning a championship. That's the theme I got from today, Coach, I tell you. And it is good to have you back, Coach. Seriously, I know we haven't recorded in a while, but it's great to have you back. This is a whole lot of fun as always. Just like I always say, Coach, just getting your insight on the college game and your thoughts on the Cowboys and the Buffaloes, and teaching us some of us casual fans out there that hey, let's not push that panic button just yet. Although I will say the panic button for this team right here. I'm just saying, it's kind of I feel like it's okay for me to press the panic button for that team. Everyone else, it is what it is.
Malik Neighbors, Rookie of the Year.
Yeah. Alrighty. All right. Well,
Nonetheless, though, I was going to say, I appreciate you, man. I don't got anything else left to say. I was going to say, I appreciate you. Unfortunately, we missed a couple weeks, but I think we're back in rhythm. So just getting some continuity out of this.
Dang right.
We got a ton of stories, so we're locked and loaded, man. Let's just keep building, getting 1% better each episode.
Damn right, Coach. You're damn right. And you'll see clips of this episode released throughout the week. But we'll see you guys next Thursday, though. We got a lot more college football to talk about next week. Hopefully, we come out next week with the Cowboys winning and the Buffaloes winning. Unless something happens with either of them, we shall see. But for Coach Wilson, I'm Nathan Nguyen. Thank you so much for watching and listening to Coach's Corner on the Third 10 podcast. We'll see you guys next Thursday. Have a great one.